Welcome to Salsido Paranormal. I'm your host, James Salsido, and tonight I'm continuing my series on haunted places in the U.S. As always, you can find all episodes of the show along with links to social media, ways to listen, and ways to support the show at the website, and that is salsidoparanormal.com. That's SALSIDO paranormal.com. There are many ways to support the show. Now you can always share the show with others and rate and review it on your favorite podcast platform. You can sign up for the Patreon feed and get all the extra content there for as little as $1 a month. You can also check out the merchandise store, which has all kinds of shirts and other items with designs made by friends of the show. Support is never expected but always appreciated, as there are expenses in making these shows. And also, please follow other friends of the show. That would be Jen, the Arcane Observer, who is the co-host of this show when she is able to make it on Saturdays, as well as Michael Strange of Trouble Minds Radio and the Trouble Minds Radio Network, KUAP Digital Broadcasting, where you can hear all kinds of amazing shows, as well as my own, online for free 24/7. So, a couple of things to note about these Haunted Places shows. Um, I always include a couple of links in the episode description for each location I talk about, where you can find information about the place and you can start your own research into them or continue your own research into them further. Um, Especially if you want to go visit these places, please make sure you look at up to date information as to whether that's possible or not and when it's okay to go and all the details there because I do not recommend or support trespassing in any way. So, and of course, with all the links, you'll be able to find pictures of all these places and other things that will not work on a audio only podcast. So, let's get back to the material here. Thank you all for being here and listening in. And let's get back to these haunted places. Oops, I'm in the wrong document. I think it might help if I'm actually in the right document. I'm just guessing. That might be a good thing. There we go. So this next location is the Beaumont Hotel in Beaumont, uh, Kansas, and it is built in 1879, and it first served as a vital stagecoach and railroad stop for early travelers and cattle buyers journeying through the Flint Hills. So it goes into more historical background here. The hotel opened as the Summit Hotel, constructed by Edwin Russell in 1879 on the highest point between St. Louis and Ellsworth, Kansas. I'm guessing they mean St. Louis, Missouri? Not sure though. Um, in the late 1800s and early 1900s, it became a popular spot for cattle buyers and for a time may have operated as a brothel. A unique feature is its 2,600-foot native grass airstrip, established in 1953, so that small aircraft can land right at the hotel. That's fascinating, making it a popular hub for pilots and aviation enthusiasts. The hotel has been restored several times and now features a restaurant, private baths, suites, and historic decor. The adjacent water tower built for the railroad, words are hard, is one of the oldest wooden water towers in the U.S. and is on the National Register of Historic Places. Haunting legends and paranormal activity. The Beaumont Hotel is widely considered one of Kansas's most haunted, with legends centering on a resident ghost a cowboy named Zeke. Zeke is said to have been murdered by the innkeeper who discovered Zeke's romantic involvement with his wife while the hotel functioned as a brothel. Guests and staff frequently report seeing the apparition of a cowboy at the top of the stairs or within the hotel, especially near room 6. Paranormal phenomena include clock radios going off in multiple rooms simultaneously, typically between 2 and 3 a.m. That's fascinating. Loud, unexplained bangs, the sound of jangling spurs. I've heard that in other Old West locations before, the report of that. And chairs mysteriously moved behind doors to hinder entry. Other reports include shadowy figures, strange voices, and unexplained cold spots, echoing the tragic energies of its Old West past. Regularly featured in Kansas ghost story lists and investigated by paranormal enthusiasts, the Beaumont Hotel maintains a reputation not only as an iconic relic of the cattle and railroad era, but also as a site where the restless spirits of frontier drama linger. That's the end of that entry. And yeah, I've heard of the sound of those spurs that they mentioned, the clanging sounds when people are walking, basically, before. So that's fascinating. That because it is something that I think is more common in the West and everything. So, um, but yeah, the other activity there sounds like it's fairly active. This next one is the Ellenwood Underground Tunnels, and this is in Ellenwood. This is a town name in Kansas. So these are a remarkable hidden network of tunnels dating back to the late 1800s, famed both for their unique history and for persistent ghost stories tied to the town's colorful past. Historical background: the tunnels were built beneath Ellenswood Main Street around the late 19th century as a practical response to harsh Kansas weather and muddy roads, allowing townspeople, merchants, and travelers to move between businesses and hotels without braving the elements. I would love a place like that, a situation like that. Anyway, early German immigrant settlers played a key role in their construction, designing the town after Bavarian traditions that featured basements and underground walkways. That's fascinating. Huh. The tunnels connected barber shops, a public bathhouse, saloons, shoe shops, storage rooms, and the Wolf Hotel, creating a vibrant subterranean marketplace. These spaces served multiple purposes over the years, including venues for gambling, speakeasies during Prohibition, possible refuges for German residents during times of anti-German sentiment in World War I, and even possible brothels. The tunnels fell into disuse by the 1940s, and many were filled in or blocked during sidewalk renovations in the 1980s. But dedicated preservationists saved segments under the, I'm guessing it's the last name, Dick Building, and the Wolf Hotel, which are still accessible today. Haunting legends and paranormal activity. Visitors, staff, and paranormal investigators have reported strong feelings of unease, cold spots, and the sensation of being watched while exploring the tunnels. Apparitions of historic townspeople are said to appear in the tunnels and the Wolf Hotel, particularly the ghosts of those who might have frequented the gambling dens, saloons, or brothels, or those seeking refuge during the town's wildest years. Disembodied voices, footsteps echoing without visible cause, and unexplained noises are frequently described during tours and after hours. The authenticity of the tunnel's atmosphere, filled with untouched antique items and original construction materials, deepens the sense that Ellen Wood's Ellen Ellen Wood's past lingers strongly below the modern streets. And that is, oh, sorry, there's one more paragraph. Tours of the Ellenwood underground tunnels continue today. Again, check on your own current information, but blending preserved local history with tales of mystery and haunting to give visitors a sense of stepping directly into the past. So that's fascinating. I wouldn't mind, if I ever get to travel, I wouldn't mind checking that out. I've always been fascinated by underground spaces, and especially the more sort of the the elaborate the elaborate ones where you could basically possibly live underground for however long you wanted to. It's always been an interest of mine. Um, so moving on to the Alma Cemetery, and this is in Alma, Kansas, and that's ALMA. This has a history dating back to its layout in May of the late 19th century. May? I wonder if that's a town nearby. Serving as the city's main burial ground for residents through the years. The cemetery is known as Alma City Cemetery and is divided into several denominational sections, including City, Catholic, Lutheran, and United Church of Christ. Historical context. Alma Cemetery has been the final resting place for many of Alma's earliest settlers uh, and families, documenting the community's growth and development over the decades. The area surrounding Alma was settled in the mid to late 1800s with significant pioneer activity, railroad expansion, and agricultural development, contributing to the town's establishment. The cemetery has seen many local historical events indirectly reflected in the grave sites, such as deaths from accidents, illnesses, and natural causes common to frontier life. Haunting and paranormal activity. Alma Cemetery is reputed to be haunted by mysterious orbs and mists that have been reportedly captured in photographs taken at the site by visitors or paranormal investigators. Now, I wonder how often those were seen with the naked eye, because lights and mists can be, from what I've heard, problems and or glitches or errors, whatever you want to call them. In other words, non-paranormal things having to do with the environment and or the state of the camera and all those things. But anyway, a local legend speaks of, in quotation marks here, the devil's chair, close quotation marks, a specific spot within the cemetery associated with ghost stories and mysterious activity. Uh, Beyond orbs and mists, the cemetery holds a general reputation for a solemn but spooky atmosphere shared by locals and ghost enthusiasts who sometimes report unexplained sounds and feelings of being watched. An old story relates to a mean farmer who owned much of the surrounding land around the time Alma was being built. His land holdings adjacent to the cemetery fostered local folklore about the land and spirits, though details tend to vary. There we go, by retelling. So, um, that's the end of that one. And that's also the last location in Kansas there that we have. But that is fascinating. The lights in the mists, the orbs in the mists, um, reported in places like that. I have heard of that, and yeah, it sounds like possibly an active place. It is strange how some cemeteries you hear about, there's just people don't feel or sense anything. There's no reports of any activity there. Um, it feels neutral, and others feel very positive, even if there is or isn't any other paranormal activity. And then others feel completely negative. It does not seem to the type of location that it is. In other words, a cemetery or a graveyard. Um, excuse me. It does not seem to matter so much as, I guess, the history of the place and the people involved in it and all these things, because it's the feelings and or activity and or lack of activity in these places varies. In these types of places varies. So moving on to Kentucky here. Let me start off with a place that I want to visit someday. Uh, of course, I found out first about it online. Well, not online, on TV shows, paranormal investigation shows. But over the years, I've heard so many other reports off of reality TV shows about activity at Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Louisville, Kentucky. Excuse me. That I want to visit there someday. But so this is renowned for both for its tragic history and its reputation as one of the most haunted locations in the United States. This one might be one of those places where that reputation, that claim as one of the most haunted places, this one more than some other places, just because of how that claim works. But this one might be up there on that list. If I had to make a list, I might put this place up there. Uh, Waverly Hills Sanatorium. Originally constructed in 1908, the hospital opened in 1910 as an isolation center for tuberculosis patients during a period when the disease was rampant and highly contagious. The initial structure quickly became overcrowded, leading to the construction of a large 5-story brick facility that opened in 1926, accommodating over 400 patients. Waverly Hills was a self-contained complex with its own farmland, post office, and zip code, serving as a small, isolated community during its years of operation. Following the introduction of effective tuberculosis treatments in the late 1940s, patient numbers began to drop and the sanatorium closed as a TB hospital in 1961. After its closure as a hospital, Waverly Hills operated as a nursing home and later fell into disrepair, becoming a magnet for urban exploration, urban explorers. There we go. Paranormal investigators and thrill seekers. The sheer number of deaths that occurred on its grounds, estimates range from 8,000 to far higher, along with the stories of mistreatment and tragedy, have given rise to a multitude of ghost stories and reported hauntings. Common reports, excuse me, include apparitions such as a little girl running on the third floor, a little boy with a leather ball, a woman with uh, there's a person there, a nurse, I believe, The shadowy specter called the Creeper, which I've heard about in various experiences, not just on TV shows, and even doppelganger encounters. That's fascinating. I hadn't heard of that one before, but I have never really done a complete. I mean, it'd be hard to do a complete look into this location now. There's so much out there about it. Visitors and staff have also reported slamming doors, mysterious footsteps, unexplained lights in abandoned rooms, sounds such as screams or children's laughter, the ghostly scent of fresh bread from the decaying kitchen, and tactile sensations like hands reaching out in the darkness. Particularly well known is the fifth floor, location of some of the most disturbing hauntings, including the cries of a woman, uh, the and then of course the so let me see here, fifth floor. Okay, so now it shifts to the body chute or death tunnel, once used to discreetly transport the deceased out of the building, is now infamous in ghost hunting circles for reported sightings and eerie phenomenon. Today, Waverly Hills offers historical and paranormal tours, drawing countless visitors with its chilling legends and atmosphere of lingering tragedy. So that's it for that location. Again, if you want a paranormal rabbit hole, um, you can check out more on that, and I will include the link that Sweets shared in the chat there as well. So, but and we don't really have enough time to get started on the next location here. I don't think we have like 2 minutes. So just I guess I'll just fill it out by talking about sort of what I've heard and read and seen over the years. It is I know it was covered a lot and featured a lot in the original Ghost Hunters TV series. I haven't watched any of the paranormal investigation shows now in many years, but they went there a few times at least in that series. I wouldn't be surprised if Ghost Adventures went there as well. Um, there's a documentary DVD, and I don't remember the name of it now that I got. If I find it, if I can remember and I find it later on, um, I will share a link in the Discord. But that is all about it, and it's a documentary. It's not like a paranormal investigation reality show kind of thing. And I know I talk about that a lot, but I may have to do a show on that and on my issues with those kind of shows at some point because I always talk about that. I never really go into my thoughts on those in general. But anyway, that does cover the history and the paranormal activity and all those things. And so there's many. I'm sure you can find many different documentaries um, online and or on TV networks or whatever, or just in streaming services at this point. Because there's just so many reports. And the thing is, every once in a while, um, I will find a report or I'll hear about a report on another podcast that talks about people's experiences um, there as well. So we are out of time. Thank you all for listening, and I'll talk to you all next time on Salsido Paranormal. Take care.